I know I just made a Batman Arkham video. Maybe I'm going back to my roots a little bit this week because I wanted to talk about something that has just been such a missed opportunity, and it's something that I don't really expect to get anymore. And to be honest, I don't really even care if we get it anymore, but I used to care a lot. And that was a Justice League style of game set in the Batman Arkham universe. Now listen, I know there are some people who are just fans of Batman, and that's fine. I do think that there are characters you're missing out on if you don't go check out some other comic book characters and things like that, but I get that there are some people who are like only mildly into this stuff, so they pretty much only like, they're one character, and then that's their prerogative. But in general, it's interesting to me how this series, it seemed to tease connections to and almost like a desire to explore other characters all the way back as early as Batman Arkham City. Now, I'm sure that there's an obscure Arkham Asylum Easter egg that I'm forgetting about, and if there is, you can let me know in the comments down below. That maybe references another hero, another city, something like that. But as far back as Arkham City, I remember other heroes being referenced, other cities where superheroes lived being referenced. And I will talk about some of those things today, but especially by the time of Arkham Knight, like there was just reference after reference all over the place, to the point where it wasn't just fun little nods, it really was leading people's expectations to think, oh, there's probably going to be more superhero games in this continuity. They're probably going to do something with this. And yet they never really did. Now again, I know they did do Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, but like, can that really be counted as an expansion of this universe? It was so ham-fisted in trying to expand and trying to be edgy, only to duck out of its own premise in post-launch content that they drip-fed the players for quite a while. It was just unimpressive at best, and honestly disappointing at worst. Probably some very derogative words for disappointing that could be used, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts down below, so I do have a question of the day for you, which is, did you ever want to see, or would you even still ever want to see, other superhero games in the Batman Arkham universe? There are years you can work with and things you can do. Unfortunately, I think they kind of backed themselves into a corner by when they canonically had Batman meet, Superman and the Justice League and stuff. At this point, if I was going to do it, I would just decanonize Suicide Squad, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts down below. Now, I think first and foremost, I need to justify my position for just a minute and point out some of the ways that they have referenced different characters. Like, for example, Superman was referenced a couple different times indirectly in Batman Arkham City, where they had different things like, for example, Hugo Strange mentioning Metropolis and Keystone and essentially talking about how they're going to set up similar camps to Arkham City in those cities. And obviously, Superman is from Metropolis. That's why he's from Krypton, but that's pretty much where he operates. And the Flash, at least one of them, operates mainly in Keystone City. There's the other guy in Central City. There's a lot of other Flashes. They all deserve respect, but this was a very clear and direct reference to Superman and the Flash. And even later on, like, they doubled down on it. You have to remember, Rocksteady purposely put these things in the game, with, during Harley Quinn's Revenge, a thug even saying they're going to sell Batman's utility belt to the Toyman, which is a pretty famous Superman villain, especially if you watched things like Superman the Animated Series in the DCAU. Now, that said, these references, they don't stop here. It's not like this is the only place that they happen is just, Batman Arkham City. If they just happened here and they ditched them, I suppose you could say, oh, well, they maybe had an idea, and then they were like, no, that won't work. We can't make that work. Let's just not mention that again. But even with WB Games Montreal, there were several references to different heroes. Like, off the top of my head, at My Alibi, you had a reference to Zatanna. So there was like a poster advertising Zatanna performing. And so there were different superheroes and characters throughout the years that were referenced. The Arkham Shadow team recently did it with Martian Manhunter, I believe. It was actually, that's right, he was in a newspaper in Arkham Shadow. And the name John Jones was even referenced in Batman Arkham Knight. So like Batman Arkham Knight went on to reference all these characters too. It went on to reference John Constantine and all kinds of other characters, even with some dialogue from thugs. I believe there's a line of dialogue directly mentioning Flash. There's a line saying basically like, who does this guy think he is, Superman, about Batman. And there are some voicemails, like one from Lex Luthor, and a lot of other things. My point is, there is a very big history of this franchise pointing towards other heroes, saying, hey, we should do something with other heroes. They're out there. And very clearly, Rocksteady had some inclination and interest in doing this, and WB has had interest in doing this for many, many years too. Now, while I've heard many different video game insiders say there was never a Superman game greenlit, at least in recent years, nobody wanted to do it, Rocksteady didn't want to do it, it's very possible Rocksteady never had an interest in it, but WB did. There have been so many pitches for Superman games, concept art that went unused, different things like that with villains, all kinds of stuff. But I suppose that's par for the course. There was also a canceled WB Games Montreal Suicide Squad game that was supposedly going to be more of like a single player experience, not the live service game we got later on from Rocksteady. So like canceled superhero games, there's probably far more rejected and canceled superhero games over under WB over the years than there are ones that were released. And it did become very clear during Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League that, at least as of that game, they didn't really have ideas on how to do these characters. It seems like they only really had ideas to do more down-to-earth characters with guns and gadgets. They didn't really know what to do with these super-powered characters, which is unfortunate because I remember after Arkham City, and this is something I want to make a whole video on, talking about what people expected to come out after certain games, like the hype around them. But for Arkham City, I remember that one of the biggest rumors was a Silver Age inspired Justice League game. Now, somebody might have just pulled that out of their ass. It might have had no basis in reality at all, outside of, the mentions of like Keystone and Metropolis and stuff. But in general, like, it was something that was being floated around in the community and online with people that they were thinking, oh wow, this would be so cool. And I remember even back then people were saying, hey, how come we're doing, multiple Batman games, which are fun, they're great, but we're not doing anyone else? Like, why aren't we doing Superman or any of these art characters? And when NetherRealm came along and did Injustice, I think a lot of people looked at that and said, okay, so you're doing something with these characters here, why don't we see anything for them in this universe that's constantly teasing them? Now, you can get away with doing multiple Batman games in a row if you want to, but when you're constantly teasing these other characters, you also can't be surprised when people are disappointed that nothing comes from it, that it ends up just being a tongue-in-cheek nod. A lot of people don't really care for that kind of thing. It's fun universe building, but why build out a universe if you never want to expand on it? And Suicide Squad is not a natural expansion of it. It's ignoring these characters for years and years and years of creation of these games, and then finally bringing them all up in almost like a shotgun approach, where in the end you barely even get to know any of these characters anyway, because the versions you meet are all just dumb clones. So it's like, that's not really how you expand this universe, right? And yet it seems like they were constantly hinting at expanding this universe over those years, and they just never got around to doing it. I could have easily seen a superhero slate working in this universe, similar to how the DCAU did it. If you could, and I think it just really takes talent and it takes imagination to make these characters work. You've seen superpowered characters of similar varieties work for video games before. So when you're looking at characters like Superman and Wonder Woman and Flash, even if you only had those characters and only gave them all one game, if you had done something like Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and then you did like Superman, The Flash, then Arkham Origins, then maybe a Wonder Woman game, then Arkham Knight, you could have very easily created a tied together universe that didn't need to be so meshed together that it would interfere with each other's stories, but it could eventually build to team ups, or it could eventually build to a Justice League game where all of these characters come together. And they've made Justice League games before. They made ones on the Game Boy Advance based off the old DCAU. They made at least one on the PS2 and Xbox, as I believe Justice League Heroes, which I always kind of forget about. They did make these characters work as well in Injustice, even though that's a fighting game. It's one where they made the Justice League work as a playable roster. So I never bought the explanation of it's too hard. Oh, it's too hard to make a Superman game. Or even now with the Wonder Woman game, where like basically everybody involved kind of had to leave with their tail between their legs because it got shut down, and we have no idea if anything even got made for it. Like, well, other than some concept art, there's been no leaks of like gameplay, nothing. I mean, maybe at some point there will be. Obviously the NDA is going to be strict on that. But in general, it's like we don't even know if anything was made. I've seen video game insiders claim they think there was basically no progress on that game at all. You know, that they made some progress, had to ditch it, started over, and then it got canned. It's like, why is this so hard on a conceptual level to make these things work? Now, I understand video game development is difficult, like the actual coding, the actual process of putting those assets in, building them, all of that stuff. I'm not claiming to be an expert on those things. But from the directorial standpoint, from the idea standpoint, we've seen other games make characters that just have bananas powers work. Even characters like Kratos, you can make games around that character. Like, why can't you do this with the Justice League? It's just such a disappointing missed opportunity. And I know this is kind of a rant. I mean, like maybe at some point I could do a what I would have made this game be. But like I said, you know, it's really something where I think you could have spread out the Batman games just a little more, put some stuff in the middle there, sprinkled it in, you know, a Superman game, maybe a Wonder Woman game, a Flash game. Even if you just had those three in there and they all got one game, that would build to a comprehensive Justice League game. You sell it with Batman because you've got this already built-in fan base from the Batman Arkham games. Then you have the fans you picked up along the way of these other characters who are constantly neglected in video games unless it's Lego or a fighter. It's like the only two places you get to play as these characters. And then you have a full roster and you can keep spinning off of that. I feel like in general, WB wasted a lot of things. Like I feel like to some extent, they wasted Kevin Conroy's time, you know, like with projects that he wanted to do, that he was open to doing. Like, obviously none of us live forever. It's tragic. I'm not saying like he was only good for his voice, but it's like you blew your opportunity to do more with some of those characters, like DCAU Batman for a show, or, you know, the Kevin Conroy Arkham Batman. You blew your opportunity to use that amazing man because you pussyfooted around, canceled all your games, couldn't figure your shit out, and then had to be bought out by another company. And now there's rumors that company doesn't even want you anymore. It's like, I just don't understand what has happened over the decades at this company, that this is such a hard thing to land. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm just disappointed by it. I think it's a real shame. I mean, it's like, that's the nicest way to say it. It's just a real shame. If you want to support this channel, using our Fortnite code means the world to us. I appreciate that. Big thank you to our members as well. We do have channel member exclusive videos on both of our channels, Degenerate J and Degenerate Plays. On Degenerate Plays, we're playing through a lot of games right now. Just finished Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. We're playing through Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, among other things. And also, by the way, we're going to be replaying Batman Arkham Asylum in the near future, I believe, me and my wife Jill. We're actually catching up on the DCAU Batman the Animated Series to start that. So I hope you'll check that channel out. And finally, we do have our own store, cosmobunny.shop, where we make coasters, keychains, trays, and more out of recycled paper from damaged comics, damaged manga. Like what I do with YouTube, what we want to do is take something that's older, give it new life through a new medium, and that's what we try to do with cosmobunny.shop. We also do currently have a sale going on cosmobunny.shop. There is, I believe, today and tomorrow left of it. It's going to end at the end of May 15th. So this is your opportunity to get 15% off your entire order, which is going to be pretty great for you. And you know what? We have a little bit of overstock from some shows we did, so it's good for us too. I hope you'll check that out. Have a fantastic day. As always, everyone, stay shway.